This is the news in brief from the United Nations. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on Thursday urged private investors, businesses, cities, states and regions to do more to cut harmful greenhouse gas emissions. Mr Guterres' comments came as he unveiled a plan to develop stronger standards for net zero pledges by partners below the national government level in the fight against climate change. Despite growing pledges of climate action, global emissions are at an all-time high, Mr Guterres warned, and they continue to rise, he said, adding that the latest science shows that climate disruption is causing havoc in every region already. The key objective is to stop global temperatures from rising 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, as the international community agreed in Paris in 2015. But the UN chief warned that the world was losing the race to reduce global temperature rise. Governments had the biggest responsibility to achieve net zero emissions by mid-century, especially the G20 industrialized nations, he said, before calling on every business, investor, city, state and region to walk the talk on their net zero promises. The UN launched the biggest appeal ever for a single country on Thursday when it appealed for $4.4 billion to help 22 million people in Afghanistan. Needs there are dire and worsening after recurring drought and 2 decades of fighting. Speaking from Kabul, UN Emergency Relief Chief Martin Griffiths said that he'd been profoundly disturbed after visiting a hospital where he saw severely acutely malnourished children being fed in intensive care.
The humanitarian situation is grim. For tens of millions of people, life hangs just by a thread.
Mr Griffiths said that the economy remains too weak to sustain the lives of ordinary Afghans who are suffering the most. Today, half the population faces acute hunger, including 9 million who are in a state of emergency food insecurity, which is the highest number in the world. Now, have you heard of arboviruses? They're some of the world's most dangerous mosquito-borne illnesses such as dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya and Zika. They're all mosquito-borne illnesses too, and they represent massive health threats in tropical and subtropical parts of the planet where more than half the world's people live. Faced with a growing number of arboviral outbreaks worldwide, the UN Health Agency on Thursday launched a global initiative to prevent a new pandemic. Dr. Mike Ryan, who's head of the World Health Organization's emergency program, explained that the scheme would tackle the broad but related threats posed by dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya and Zika in different parts of the world.
Each of these diseases, there have been gains in different aspects of surveillance, response, research and development, but sustainability is often limited to the scope and duration of disease-specific projects. There is an urgent need to re-evaluate the tools at hand and how these can be used across diseases to ensure efficient response, evidence-based practice, equipped and trained personnel and engagement of communities.
Dr. Ryan noted that interest in the WHO initiative has been strong in the 2-year run-up to Thursday's launch, despite the pressures of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, as there are concerns about arboreal disease spread in populations that are least equipped to deal with them. Daniel Johnson, UN News.